Women real quick. Check. Black on black and beauty's intact. Trust. There's nothing you lack. Nothing can ever sever our soul ties when we together. You my ride and tie, girl. Forever, ever. Forever, ever you fly in any weather. Black, intelligent, smart, and clever, full of grace and honor. How dare we ponder? Your strength make a black man's heart grow fonder. Protect our black queens at any cost. See, without the black queen, we catch a loss, B. Taking L's from left to right, vision blurred, but with the black queen, we elevate, you heard? Honey, caramel, hazelnut, bronze, chocolate, mocha, all shades, no cons. Skin absorbing all the sun, so much melanin. Love the color of your beauty and the light within. Concept, baby.
Concepts, you said it right. I am beautiful in God's sight. Don't you know I am Mother Earth? Everything black and beautiful I have birthed. Let's review my history. Something is steeped in mystery. Royal blood runs through my veins. I have carried my people's pains. I am dark like a night in Tunisia. I possess power and wealth like the Queen of Sheba. Naya, Kim, Cynthia, Viola, Kadia, Zozabini, Gabrielle, Beverly, Issa, from Africa, India, America, Jamaica. Dark beauty runs across the world, make no mistake, beautiful mind and beautiful skin. The peace and power that come from within. Don't you feel the pull? We are the color of beautiful.
Image and mirror in his reflection. Black and beautiful, my shortcomings, this is perfections. Affected to this polio and method, that's why they toil. On the clouds, I'm in craving. Homage to my people who fight to be equal.
Good evening. Welcome, beautiful people. Welcome to Beautiful Color Conversations. My name is Karen Moore, and I am your host. I am the founder of I Am the Color of Beautiful, global spoken word initiative and movement. We are redefining the standard of beauty for women of color, and our focus is on eradicating colorism in communities of color across the globe. I'm so excited about our show today. We have an amazing guest today. You just saw the new Color of Beautiful song, and we call it the Color of Beautiful remix. and that's the video for the remix. And I certainly hope that you have enjoyed it. And we'll have some more information about the song and about some of the things that we are going to be doing going forward with some of our campaigns and things. But today's show is really, really amazing. We have a wonderful, wonderful guest joining us today on Beautiful Color Conversations. And I'm going to tell you about her before I bring her on. Dr. Kathy Barton Brown, MSW, LMSW, ACSW, PhD, is a licensed psychotherapist who has been in the mental health field for over 35 years. She attended University of Michigan and graduated in 1985. After working in the field for 5 years, she was inspired to go back to school. Attending Wayne State was a life changing experience. In May 1993, she graduated from Wayne State. Kathy united with Dr. Reuben West in March 2017. She was published in 2017 with Dr. West in Live Your Best Life, The Time Is Now. In October 2017, she received a PhD in humanities from United Graduate Seminary. She has been in private practice for the past 14 years. Her motto is inspiring people to help themselves. Once a month, she is a regular guest on WFLT African American Inspiration, encouraging the African American community to be aware of their emotional and mental health and teaching about mental health diagnosis. Every Friday, she hosts conversations about love, life, and relationships, where people are educated on issues that can crumble a relationship. Kathy has been in broadcasting for over 40 years and thoroughly enjoys media as a tool to promote her platform, reversing the curse of dysfunctional relationships. Additionally, she is an adjunct professor at Baker College, where she passionately instructs students of all ages to overcome the challenges of finding their divine purpose and walking in it. Kathy is the proud mother of two young ladies who are Karina, 15, and Kayla, 21. We welcome Dr. Kathy Barton Brown.
Hello,
Welcome.
Dr. Morris. So good to see you.
It's so good to see you, beautiful. How are you today?
It's a good day. It's always a good day.
It's always a good day. My mom used to say, any day above ground is a good day,
Amen.
right?
Mhm,
Well, we
that's
are
right.
so glad to have you here today. Um, it is such an honor to have you here with us today. And what I want to do is first thing I would like for you to do, if you don't mind, is to tell us about your experience with colorism. We know that I know that you have had an experience with colorism, and so I'd like you, if you don't mind, to share that with our audience.
I'll be glad to share it with your audience. And the thing is that when we experience these the incidents that happen in our life that are traumatizing, many times we repress them to the point that we don't remember them because they're too painful. And this particular instance that I'm going to share, I was 12 years old, and I really had put it so far in my mind because it was so painful. It caused me to go to a place where I literally cut off all my family ties except my mother at 12 years old. And so what happened is I was at a relative's house, and I was an avid swimmer, and so were most of my cousins. But we had one cousin who could not swim. And we were teenage girls. It was four cousins all playing at the pool. And we were playing at the deep end, pushing each other in. You know how silly we get, and just blindly pushing each other in. And so as fate would have it, I pushed in the cousin that couldn't swim. And as soon as I pushed her in, I realized, oh no, it's the one that can't swim. So I jumped in to save her. And in my panic, I began to drown. And so my other cousin reached over and pulled me by my hair to save me. Now I felt some kind of way because we don't like people pulling us by our hair, but I was just glad to be saved. So after the event was over, the relative whose house we had been staying at called a family meeting on me for pushing in the cousin that couldn't swim. I had no idea what the meeting could possibly be about. But there I was. It felt like a kangaroo court. And I literally sat in my grandmother's house against the patio on the floor while all these adults, like 5 adults, were sitting there because the relative whose house I was at made the accusation that I tried to kill my cousin because she was lighter than me. Her hair, this was actually said, because she was lighter than me, because she was smaller than me, because her hair was longer than mine, and she was prettier than me. Those were the 4 reasons that she accused me of trying to kill my cousin. And I sat there on the floor against the patio, trying in my 12-year-old mind to understand what in the world was going on. Because up until that time, I never noticed that my cousin was lighter complected than I was. I never noticed that her hair was longer than mine. I never noticed any of these things that I was being accused of carrying. So after that experience, I became a lot more conscious about all of me, everything, my size, my looks, my color, everything became an issue with me where I had to go through periods of time of being just totally insecure because when the people who love you and that you've known since you drew your first breath make these accusations about you based on you're envious or jealous of someone's color when it's never entered in your mind, it causes you to go through a self discovery. Is that really who I am? Was that deep down inside of me? And the conclusion I came to over the years, it wasn't my issue, it was hers.
Hmm.
And so, because my grandmother raised some of her sister's children, because her sister passed away, and her
Okay.
own children, but my grandmother was color stricken. My grandmother had issues with color to the point that one of my cousins literally would break the heads off of her black dolls, but love on her white dolls. We never knew that my grandmother was giving her a complex about her darker complexion. We never knew that my grandmother even had these issues about color until she would make certain derogatory comments as we went through life. When my cousin married an African, she would call him Kuta Kente and things. I just really never knew because even when my cousin was going through and breaking the heads off of her dark dolls, I still never knew that my grandmother carried it. And so to my grandmother, I was more accepted because I was lighter than the cousin who was breaking the heads off. But she had said subtle things to this cousin that by the time the cousin was 7, 8 years old, she had already picked up an issue with her color because of what her grandmother was saying to her.
Right.
And to look at our family from the outside, you never know that we had colorism issues. And in our community, it's sad that in our community we have so many diverse colors that you would think that we would just embrace everyone, but we still have people who have that old school mentality, and that old school mentality is white is right. So the closer you are to light or white, or some even say they're so light they're dang near white. You've heard that before. So
Right.
some of us still carry that mentality. I have a friend, and she was rejected not by her boyfriend's mother, because the mother said to him, "You can't marry her because she's darker than a paper bag." So we still have generations and generation of that mentality that's affecting us today. I believe that some of our people deliberately pick the opposite of whatever their skin tone is so that their children won't have to suffer what they went through. So
Yeah.
I think that is the subconscious message with some people when they say, I don't do anybody dark. I don't do anybody light, because what they want to assure is no one ever have to go through what I went through. So if I choose a mate who is brighter colored or lighter colored than I am, then my children will never be called darky, spook, smoke, and all the evil things that we ever called people
Right.
who were younger. But going through that, till that day, Dr. Moore, till that day, I never knew that she was lighter than me because it didn't matter. I just loved her. She was my cousin.
She was your cousin. Yeah.
Mhm. That
Yeah.
was her first title. She wasn't my light skinned cousin. She was just my cousin that I loved.
Right.
You
Right.
know, which is how it should be. But
Yes.
in that room, the mean things that were said to me because of color, or them interpreting that I had an issue because my color versus her color, those things affected me and lasted throughout my lifetime.
Yes.
I'm 58 years old. That was 46 years ago that it happened. And it's still things that were said that day still come up. Still come up. And only one person in that room stood in my defense, and that was my mother. Everyone else in that room, the feelings that I had that day caused me to shift. It caused me to shift because I felt no loyalty from them because they all had the attack finger. But it was my mother who said, every single one of you should be ashamed of yourself.
Right.
Every single one of you. Every single one of you know for a fact that's not Kathy's heart. Every one of you knows she jumped in first to save her. Why would you make this about something else?
Well,
It's a blessing to have a mother that has wisdom.
yes. Yes, that is a blessing.
Mhm.
That is a blessing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. So, I know that you said to this day that it still affects you. How is it still, do you think, affecting you to this day?
There have been times when, especially when I was younger and dating, and if a man paid attention to me or wanted to talk to me, and he was lighter complected, I automatically pulled back because I felt like I would be rejected. Because here it was I was not as good as my light skinned cousin. So even if he started talking to me, he didn't really want to talk to me, and at some point he would reject me because he'll be like them and say, that I had an issue or whatever. So I kind of lived in a world of who will really know me? It felt like people didn't understand me. I carried the thing of people not understanding who I am for years. Because at 12 years old, when you're told that you did something for a reason that you didn't do it,
Right.
it causes you to question yourself.
Right.
Hmm.
Well, so we're going to talk about stereotypes.
Hmm.
And one of the things that I know, one of the big stereotypes with, in particularly dark skinned women, is that we're angry.
Yeah. Hmm.
The angry black woman. And that's usually being referred to with dark skinned women,
Hmm.
that we're
Hmm.
angry, we have attitudes.
Hmm.
Um, and one of the things I tell people, sometimes unjustifiably so.
Hmm. Hmm.
Sometimes justifiably so. But one of the things that I know I have found is that when you talk about that stereotype of dark skinned black women, it can sometimes make it so that you don't feel comfortable speaking up, or you don't feel comfortable in expressing yourself because you feel like you will come off as that angry, dark woman. So, in self stereotyping, or that stereotype threat, when people of a stigmatized social group describe themselves or internalize stereotypical traits, do you think colorism has an effect on Black and Brown people, thereby causing them to unknowingly perpetrate some of the stereotypes? So, if I'm thinking that, okay, my stereotype is that I'm an angry black woman, that's how I have to respond to everything because that's how you see me anyway.
Hmm. Hmm. I think that what happens is, sometimes the stereotype, a portion of it may be true. A lot of dark skinned women have suffered. They have suffered, they have been bullied, they have been marginalized, they have been discounted, they have been told what they're supposed to be, they have been told what they're not. And so there is an element of anger that may come along with it.
Mhm.
However, to stuff that anger in and never display it is unhealthy. There is a way to address it without appearing like the angry black woman. But unless somebody walk in the shoes of having that experience and the negative stuff that happens over and over again and being bullied because of your color, being bullied for something that you had nothing to do with, you know, it does breed anger. I think the issue is sometimes we have displaced anger. And so we don't address the one who bullied us, but we address the person that we feel like they're looking at us funny. What are you looking at? And it's not that person. They may actually be looking and say, what a beautiful woman. Oh my God, her skin is gorgeous. But because we're so used to being looked at and judged in a negative way, we send back a negative vibe because that's what we've experienced by bullies. That's what we've experienced by jealous girlfriends. That's what we experienced by insecure parents and grandparents who weren't secure in their own skin. So they made us come uncomfortable in the skin we're in.
Hmm.
And it takes maturity and it takes, I think, God revealing to us. What changed my life after that experience was getting in my 20s and hearing, I am fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yes.
When I embraced that scripture, I didn't care who thought that I wasn't thin enough, I wasn't light enough, I wasn't this enough or that enough. I didn't care because I realized I was made the way I was intended to be. So, yes, some of it can shrink, but if it doesn't, I'm okay with me. I'm okay with me. And then God began to send women across my path to say that they were inspired by me being comfortable with me.
Right.
That's why it's critical that we get to the place of self acceptance. There are little girls watching who need a mentor, who need somebody to reach back and pull them out and say, you're beautiful. You're beautiful. Because if they never hear the message, they'll never begin to live up to it. See, we live down to the stereotypes. We don't come up and live up to them because most of the stereotypes are negative. Angry black woman. Well, you make me, I'm going to live right up to the angry black woman. So
Right.
instead of let me show you the graciousness of a queen, I'll show you the graciousness of a queen because you think I'm an angry black woman.
Yes.
We are comprehensive, widely comprehensive beings. Yes, we have an angry side that you don't want to meet. I call mine Kate. Kate is not nice. Kate will rip your head off. But in knowing who I am, because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, I can walk in the graciousness of God. So even when you make me angry, I will not raise my voice because I won't give you that kind of control.
Hmm.
So not buying into their stereotype, but taking the time to process and weed out because it's very easy to go to the angry way, but it takes some self-talk to get to the place to say, I will give you completely opposite of what you're expecting.
Right.
Don't buy in. Don't be a part of the hype.
Right. So outside of therapy, but we're
Mhm.
going to talk about therapy. But
Okay.
outside of therapy, how do we get to that place of self acceptance, do you think? How do
I
we get there?
this is one way that we can get there. I used to do a group on the women's psych unit, and it was a locked unit, and I would have women who had recently had nervous breakdowns or just could not cope anymore. And I would ask them, and I would say to them, I want you to write down 5 things on this piece of paper, just 5 things that are positive about yourself. 5 positive things. Most of them could not do it.
Mm.
Could not do it. Just 5. I worked with the guys on the other side. The guys couldn't even do one, not even one positive things, because that's just how much negative we receive about ourselves. For every negative comment that you get about your color or anything else, it takes 10 positive comments to wipe out one negative comment. How many of us really get that kind of ratio of positive comments coming back to us?
Not too many.
And that's why as we become awakened, as we become empowered, we have to make sure to grab our sisters and help them see their beauty,
Yes.
to compliment them, to tell them how we love their hair. Girl, your fro is slamming. Girl, your skin is glowing. You look like the richest queen. We have to come up with ways to empower ourselves and cause a resurgence of confidence and self-acceptance in the community. If we wanted to ever eliminate bullying, there's only one thing that we need to do, Dr. Moore. We need to start our babies out with self-acceptance.
Yes.
One little soul at a time, teaching them who they are, how wonderful they are, how beautiful they are, how creative they are, help them to discover their passion, and then, like a bow and arrow, aiming them towards that passion, aiming them toward the fulfillment of their purpose. See, when they come here and they're young and they find out in their passion and their purpose, they got a reason to strive, no matter what anyone says to them. If my mother hadn't been in my life and that incident happened when I was 12, you probably would have never known me, because that's what happened when kids don't have anyone. They become suicidal. They become the drug addicts. They become the ones who are out in the streets that a pimp or some predator get a hold to, because they become stripped and empty.
Right.
But that one soul spoke back to me. And that's why who I am today, because of God placing that one soul to speak to me in my life.
Thank God.
Thank God.
Thank
We
God.
have a lot of negative voices, but all you need is one positive
Yes.
soul speaking into your life, helping you to see who you are, and why you're wonderful.
Yes.
Yes, we are enough, and just the way we are, we're beautiful.
Mhm. We are.
hmm
Are.
But so many of us think we have to change. I have to bleach my skin. I have to put on a lot of makeup to cover up my flaws on my skin. I have to wear 3 girdles. I have to do this.
Yes. Yes.
Some days I don't feel like putting a girdle
I know that's right, Dr. Kathy. I know that's right.
on. On those days, I have to accept me. That even without a girdle, I am still fearfully and wonderfully made. It's
Yes.
not a girdle that makes me wonderful. It's not makeup that makes me wonderful. That's on the inside and who
Power
he
to the
created me
Spanx,
to
right?
be. Yes, them spikes will kill you.
Yes, they will. They really will.
You'll
They
be ready
really,
to
really
take some
will.
scissors and cut them off.
Yes. So, is there a psychological burden intrinsically placed on dark skinned women to represent a positive image of dark skinned people in space where they are the minority to the extent where they may be afraid to be their true selves?
I think that there is a complete split. You have dark skinned women who hate themselves and who don't have that one positive voice to speak to them. And so they live in that place of, I'm less than, and don't understand their value and their worth. And then you have other women who are progressing, who are striving for with self-help books, being in support groups, seeking friends who are confident and powerful that speak into their lives. Because if we buy into their stereotype, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So either you walk in what's been said or you begin to change it. It only takes one thought to change a whole generation. One person having one thought. My grandmother was very cold and isolated and not affectionate. My mother said when she was 10 years old, if I ever have children, I'm going to be very warm and affectionate.
Mhm.
It's the same way when we have these concepts about ourselves and our color. If I hear all the time, Black women are evil, Black women are mean, and there's never any other intervention to say differently, I'm going to believe the hype. And so I'll keep going, and everybody think I'm mean anyway. So I'll just snap. I'll just go off on everybody. Let me tell you how I feel, and I don't have a filter. I don't have a filter. I just say it. And then we wonder why we are rejected by people, or people are put off by us, because you're walking in and perpetrating what has already been projected as this negative image. But again, if we go back and we adopt and adapt to our queendom, queens don't go off.
Mm.
Queens don't have to prove they have authority. They don't have to scream and yell. They know who they are. So they don't have to prove who they are. They don't have to be tough. The gift of softness is truly a gift because when you're confident in who you are and whose you are, then you
Yes.
can speak to the mountain and watch it move.
Oh, come on now.
You don't have to go push the mountain.
That's
There is
right.
so much authority in who you are and the words that you speak. Because when we realize the power of what we say to ourselves and to our offspring, we don't let anything come out of the lips. The lips are precious and they belong to a queen. You've never seen a queen stand up and curse somebody out. She's the queen. She doesn't have to. She doesn't have to. So when we accept and know how much power we have in that position,
Yes.
then I don't have to go duke it out with my boss down the hall. Mm-mm. No, I'll pray for favor and I'll let God handle him. And I'll
Yes.
walk in sweetness because I won't put my hand to him. Vengeance is mine, said the Lord. So if I put my hand to him, now I have to have some penalty for disobeying and going against, no matter how he treat me.
Hmm.
If I let God handle him, it'll really be handled.
Yes.
But that's hard to do. It takes a lot of self-discipline. But if you don't learn the lesson, you keep having the same experience until you get the lesson. Then
Yes.
once you got the lesson, you can relax. I had a supervisor on the first day of my internship call me in her office at the end of the day. You can't cut the mustard. That's what she said to me. She didn't know me. I went home and I got some friends together and I said, we have to pray because this lady, I need this internship. She doesn't know me. I don't know what's happened to her, but we have to pray. The next morning, 8 o'clock, she called me in her office. And I had to wrestle with the negative thoughts. Oh boy, she's not going to let me stay here. To
Hmm.
say, no, I prayed and I believe what I prayed. I sat down at her desk and she said, I brought you in here to, and I'm like, say, I'm sorry. I want to apologize to you for what I said to you yesterday. And she went on to tell this story about her daughter marrying a black man. And she had mixed grandchildren. And she was never able to get over the fact that her daughter married a black man. And so she had these preconceived ideas about black people. And when I came into her office as a strange young black woman, all of her stuff about black people came up. And she was sorry. If I tell you from that day forth, she became my mentor. She went to battle for me. She opened doors for me. She established my name in the community because she was a bigwig in the community.
Mm.
God will take it and turn it. Now, if I had been the angry woman and I had bought a hold to the stereotype and I had went there in the neck and the I wouldn't have had the favor of God through that woman. So buying into the stereotype, we cut our blessings. We have to know that we have steps that are pre-planned and ordered for us. And the more we submit to doing it God's way, the more the
Yes.
doors can open, even
Yes.
when it hurts and it's uncomfortable. Queens have a lot of pain, but you don't see them publicly stand up and whine.
Right. So we've got to be able to deal with it. We've got to be able to deal with it privately.
Hmm.
However,
Privately,
however that's going to come about, we've got to be able to deal with it privately so that it doesn't come out publicly.
there was a story about a donkey who fell in a well. Have you ever heard that story?
No.
The donkey fell in the well, and the farmer was just disheartened because it was his favorite little donkey. So he began to throw dirt into the well because he thought I might as well bury him because he'll never get out because it's too far down. So he kept throwing dirt in. And unbeknownst to him, every time he threw a bucket of dirt in, the donkey would take the dirt and pat it down under his feet. He threw so much dirt in that the donkey finally got up to the top of the well where he could step out. That's what it's like to be a dark skinned woman in society. You get
Yeah.
a lot of dirt thrown on you. But if you learn how to use the dirt, you can grow beautiful flowers.
Oh, you
Beauty will
preaching,
come out
Dr.
of the dirt.
Kathy. I didn't know you were a preacher. You preaching now.
There's
Go ahead.
beauty. There's beauty that comes out of that dirt if you take it and use it the right way.
Yes.
Mhm. Beauty. Because
Yes.
out of what happened to me,
That's a great analogy. That is a
see,
great analogy.
you don't have a testimony till you have that test. And what happened to me at 12 made my heart pliable to how dark skinned people feel because I was treated as though I was a dark woman that had issues with my cousin. And so I began to walk in and see how other people feel, my empathy for people who were darker. Just that's why I wanted a chocolate baby because they're beautiful and I could empower her so she would know who she is.
Yes.
That's why she looked at me and she was a little girl and she said, Mom, I know why I'm chocolate. And I said, Well, why are you chocolate? She said, Father God knew how much you love chocolate because I prayed for a chocolate baby and he
Yes.
gave me a chocolate baby. I heard stories about when I was born, Dr. Karen, I was covered with hair. And you know what my father said? My father said, That can't be my baby because she's too black. And I was totally covered with hair. That's what he said. So to
Wow.
hear stories about your father saying something like that, you know, that still did not register as much as that incident when I was 12. Because then I just thought, well, daddy was silly. That was just hair. Like, I mean, really, I was like, as I got older, I was like, that was really ignorant. But bless his heart. But everybody comes here with their own issues. So he had his issues. But each of us have a walk. What are we gonna do? I love what you're doing with your walk. I love how you're empowering people and how you take a public platform to speak to it because there's still so many people who just carry it. You
Yes.
know, I look and go, oh my God, what a beautiful woman. And the way you can really tell whether they've embraced who they are, if you compliment them and they begin to tell you how old the dress is, or this old thing, or they minimize,
Right.
yeah, they minimize what you're trying to say about them. So I
Yes.
simply look and say, just say thank you.
Right.
You don't have to tell me anything else. Just say thank you.
Right. My pastor says that. He tells us that all the time. He
Mm-hmm,
says that, accept the compliment, just take it.
mm-hmm,
But I
mm-hmm.
think some of us are so wrapped up in so much pain, we don't even know how to accept a compliment. Because
Mm-hmm.
it's like you can't be talking to me.
Right. But I've had so many people put me down, and someone saying something nice. It's just like when people cross your path and you say, how you doing? And people say they're so used to just saying fine and moving on. You can say it's a horrible day and they say, oh good, and keep on going. Because they
Mhm.
don't stop to pay attention to what you say. I remember my oldest daughter said, Mom, you say all the time that I'm pretty. What would you say if I was ugly? I said, I would say, you sure are smart, baby. She said, I said, why would you even ask me that? Because to me, you're beautiful. I mean, I wouldn't care if you had two noses and five eyes. You're the
Yes.
byproduct that came out of my body that I prayed and asked God for. And I was an older mother. So I had one at 36 and one at 42.
Oh,
And
wow.
so they wanted to do the amniocentesis. And both times they said, well, if you don't do it, your baby could be Down syndrome. And I said, then it'll be my baby with Down syndrome. Yeah, you're
Mm.
not sticking and poking because whatever God has blessed with is my baby.
Right.
Mm-hmm,
Right.
mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah,
Okay, a
we,
2019 article published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology
Mm-hmm.
found that even after a person leaves a situation
Mm-hmm.
where they are faced with negative stereotyping, it not only affected their immediate performance, but also the effects linger and can cause aggression and lack of self control, trouble with rational decision making, and overindulgence in unhealthy foods. That would be me. When faced with colorism stereotypes, how can we learn to respond in ways that will not reinforce the stereotype and also reduce the lasting unhealthy effects?
Dr. Karen, this is the thing. Because so many of us have had mean things said to us, sometimes privately, sometimes publicly, we have internalized all of the things that have been said to us. And so if we don't deal with them, they have a way of jumping out when we least expect it. For instance, if you had an older sister who was lighter than you and always picked on you and beat you up and said mean things to you when no one was around, and you go to the store to check out, and lo and behold, the clerk looks like your sister, immediately you're not going to like her because you're going to transfer all the anger from the mean things that were said to you onto this innocent person who has no clue. So that's called a face stigma. You can have a face stigma, you can have a voice stigma, you can even have a spirit stigma, where the spirit of a person who abused or hurt you is upon another person. And so you go to this place of all your mind is blinded with, I don't like this person. And you have no legitimate reason not to. But it's the pain and the anger that you carried over all the years that was said to you. So when we have anger that has not been explored, that has not been addressed or even acknowledged, then we displace it and we put it somewhere else. We can put it on our husbands. We can put it on our children. We can put it on coworkers. So we have to begin to look at the places that I'm angry. Where am I angry? Where's the anger showing up? So I advocate for journaling because some of the best books have come out of people journaling. Some of your best poems have probably come out of times of pain and anguish or anxiety. So if we have this anger in there, then we have to look at um, where is the anger and what am I going to do with it? Am I going to let it sit there and throw off in my body and cause high blood pressure? Because the body was never intended to carry
Right.
stress, anger, or any of that stuff. Anger, one letter away from danger. So we have to stop and acknowledge that we're angry, rightfully so. So now we can do a couple things with the anger. We can write it down in a journal, in a book. We can call it the disentanglement of my anger, since entanglement is a funny word right now. Disentanglement of my anger. I'm going to untangle and not be this angry woman. So I write down when I feel the rage and the anger come up. And so I can identify if it's a person making me angry or is it internal stimuli or internal memories that are coming back that are making me angry.
Right.
Once I identify the source of the anger, then I can be able to do things that help. So this is the cheapest form of anger management you'll ever hear. It costs $11. Cheapest form of therapy. You go to the dollar store, you get the little glass plates, dollar each, and you get one marker, one black bold marker, and you write on the plates the things that you're angry about. If you were ridiculed, to put it down. If you were always called some negative derogatory term, you write it down. If there were people that hurt you, that you just seem to be stuck, you write it on a plate. When you get those plates together, you find an abandoned brick wall, and there's a lot of them around right now. Take your broom, take your dustpan, and you take those plates one by one and you break them. You know the song, I bust the windows out your car.
Yeah.
That that's some serious therapy because when you hear the glass break, it has a way of cleansing and releasing things that we can't just release in a normal day. You break the plates, you release them one by one. and you break them. And you would be surprised at how cleansing it'll be. You'll be surprised. That's why women take bats and break out headlights and windows and all that stuff, because the sound of breaking glass as a way of purifying our souls.
Wow.
Because sometimes people don't, they have hangups and stigmas about therapy. What goes on in this house, stay in this house. You
Mhm.
literally get your behind beat about telling family business.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, those family secrets, what's killing people, what's causing people to have nervous breakdowns, what's causing blood pressure to go up, blood sugars elevated, everything elevated, because we got those heart secrets from childhood that we were told we can't tell anybody about. So we stuff it in a place it never was meant to be. And when it comes to the overeating is just another way of coping. Some people drink, some people gamble. You know, I'm not one of the ones that overly exercise. Some overly exercise.
Me either.
I, I have friends that when they got sad or depressed, they didn't eat. That wasn't me. I was I was looking for the ice cream or the other things that seem to soothe my soul. You
Right.
know, so we throw off into these places where we're angry. So we may overindulge in other things, but it goes back to identifying our anger and not allowing it to drive us, where we drive the anger instead of the anger driving us. Uh-oh, I can't hear you. I can't hear you, Dr. Moore. Hold on.
Sorry, that was me.
Okay.
That was an incredible exercise you gave there about the plates. That's really amazing because I think that so many times we do not know how to release anger,
Mm-hmm,
and we internalize it, like you say, which is destroying us.
mm-hmm,
And so we're just constantly carrying that. We carry so much because we just either don't know how to let go or we
mm-hmm,
refuse to let go.
mm-hmm. And
Sometimes I think, and I don't, I hope that it's not true, but I sometimes think too that there are some people who just want to be angry. They've gotten so used to being angry
then,
that they want to be angry. They want to stay angry all of the time. And so that was an amazing
well,
exercise. Dollar store might see me tomorrow.
well, with the anger actually becomes their protection. And so what happens, they kind of come like this because they're so used to being rejected that they reject people before they get a chance to reject them. And so the anger serves as a way to get you back off of me, and some people talk about that resting face, that resting B face, they say. And that is another way of keep people away, because you're gonna hurt me like all these other people have hurt me and said mean things. So I'll be mean to you before you get a chance to be mean to me. But when we start processing the anger and breaking those plates and, put your glasses on so your eyes are safe. But I had a lady, and she could not process that her dad had terminal cancer. And her husband bought her a box full of plates at a garage sale. And she thought he was crazy. Because he said, well, Kathy wants you to do this. And she was like, she threw one plate and it just hit the wall and bounced off. But she wrote cancer on the second plate. And she threw that plate and it broke into pieces. And she crumpled to the ground because now she could begin to accept that her dad was not going to make it with the cancer because she was locked up. When you get your emotions locked up, then it can paralyze you in so many situations. God gave us emotions for a reason. So he said, be angry and sin not. So he knew we would be angry, but it's how you handle the anger. Be angry and sin not.
Right. And I think that too. I know for myself, I had a difficult time between being able to express it positively
Mm-hmm.
and just shutting down.
Mm-hmm.
See, I would shut down because when I didn't shut down, because I did not know how to really express my displeasure, I ended up being either one or the other. So I
Mm-hmm.
tended to shut down all the time.
Mm-hmm. And
And
they,
I still do it.
yeah,
I still do it sometimes where I'm upset and I'm angry and I just don't say anything. I'm just like,
mhm,
what? I'm just not even going to speak on it. But
mhm,
I try not to let it build up to the place where then it becomes a real issue. But I do shut
mhm.
down. I still do shut down. And I'm working on that, Dr. Kathy. Working on that, just not just shutting down and saying, you
Yeah.
know what? Instead of me saying something, I'm just not going to say anything.
But you know
So,
what?
um,
That might be a good thing though, because to open your mouth and speak something that's damaging is not good. And so a lot of people, some go off and neck roll, other people back up and shut down. And I will shut my mouth before I open my mouth and say something that's damaging that somebody will take to the grave. And then some people do an in between, they're sarcastic. That's where their anger comes out. Sarcasm. They're slicing into people and saying little shady things, and really that's their anger manifested. I'll get you back. One way or another.
yes, and that's what I have a sharp tongue, so I had to learn to shut down
Mhm,
because
mhm,
I would say really terrible things to people, and it just was not nice. But I
mhm,
thank God, the Holy Spirit has worked with me, and I have been able to get to a place where I either I've learned to stop and think about what I want to say,
mhm,
and that has worked out a lot better for me
mhm.
because if I say the first thing that comes to my mind, usually it is not good. It is just not good. And I'm a word person, and
Mhm.
I will chew you up
Ooh,
and spit you out.
you probably need to tape yourself. I bet that's some powerful poetry. I
Dr.
would not want to
Kathy.
see the wordsmith go off.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It really, I had to learn that, okay, you've got to be quiet
Mhm, mhm,
and
mhm.
process it. And there's nothing wrong with that.
That's right. There's
I
nothing
learned
wrong
there's
with that.
nothing wrong with being quiet and taking the time to process really what is going to be the best way
Mhm,
to respond to any situation. So if you could talk a little bit about therapy and about, I know that it is something that is not really it's not something that's really talked about a lot in the Black community.
mhm,
We still, like you said, many times what goes on in this house stays in this house, and you
mhm,
don't talk to anybody about what's going on in this house. But if you could
mhm,
kind of just talk to us a little bit about therapy, and one of the stereotypes I think that we really deal with is this strong Black woman syndrome, I call it
mhm,
the
mhm,
strong Black woman syndrome, and that we have to be strong in every situation.
mhm.
It does not matter what's going on, that we fall into this. We're strong Black women, and we're not going to let anything take us down. And in the meantime, it's killing a lot of us.
That's right.
And I mean, literally
Mhm,
killing a lot of us because we feel that we have to be strong, that
mhm.
we don't, we're not going to break under anything, which is not true because eventually you will break
That's right.
if you are not doing some kind of self-care or therapy or something. So if you could just talk to that whole strong Black woman syndrome idea and about therapy and how we need to, as a Black community, begin to approach
Mhm.
therapy.
You know, many times in the Black community, we think if you go for therapy, you're crazy. And so because that's what people always say. Well, they start whispering. They are a medicine. They gotta take their meds, or they didn't take their meds today. And so we have this front that we put on, like we're enduring all. I call it the superwoman. Got my cape on. Got my cape on. All my plates full. I need platters. Even the platters are running over because there's so much stuff going on that I have to deal with. And the whole concept of self care, because it has the word self in it, as believers in Christ, you're ridiculed for taking care of yourself. But if you don't love yourself enough, to take care of you, how is it that you can love anybody else? If he said that I want you to love your neighbors like you love yourself, well, if you don't love yourself, how can you really love your neighbors? How can you even love anyone? So it's okay to take care of yourself. And taking care of ourselves can mean sometimes just having that one trusted voice that you can go and you can share that one place. I create my office. I have teddy bears. I have a teddy bear that's almost tall as I am. And one of my male clients said, why do you have a big teddy bear in here? I said, because you may not need a big nurturing presence, but there are a lot of people that do. There are a lot of people who they can't just sit and cry because they're overwhelmed and maybe they don't know what to do. And when we have strong Black mothers, they teach us to be strong women. And our interpretation of that many times is we buck up against men. That doesn't mean that you got to go toe to toe with a man. You'll never be as strong as a man. Men are socializing little boys on a football field. If someone knock you over, you spend the rest of the game going to knock them over, take their head off, or whatever. So they're socialized to be tough. We're not socialized to be tough, but we're tough. So how do you be a strong Black woman without coming across like you're tough as any man? You accept your limitations and it's okay to have them. We all have them. So if something is too much for you, you have to put a boundary in place and say, sister, I love you, but I can no longer keep your 5 kids when I get out of work because you want to go party. You know what? I love you, but I have to have a boundary and take care of me because I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed out. If I lose it and I end up in the hospital on a psych unit, who's going to take care of my stuff? Who's going to take care of my house? Who's going to take care of my family? So we have to be able to say, this is where I draw the line. This is a point is too much for me. This is a point is unhealthy for me. Because anytime I do something for you that's unhealthy for me, I can't do it. So we have to have a standard of what is acceptable and what is not. And it's no bad thing to have a boundary. It's not a bad thing to say I can't do it because we are raised with you don't say no. You don't say no to family. You don't say no to elders. You don't say no. But if it's too much for you, yes, you say no that you may be preserved to be the best you that you can be. So when we put those boundaries in place, and where do we learn about putting boundaries in place step by step? In therapy. So now fine, you can't go to any therapist. And I'm not going to say that you should only go to a Black therapist, although many times other persuasions may not understand your walk. But I will say you have to have a therapist that your heart is comfortable with. You have to treat finding a therapist like you're shopping for shoes. We can have pretty shoes, but they better not hurt too much. So if they're too tight, we're not going to get them. If they're too big and they're flopping, they're not cute and sexy, we're not going to get them. A therapist is the same way. If you find a therapist and they're sleeping the whole time, you're not going to share anything with them. If you find a therapist and they're judgmental, you're not going to share the deep dark secrets. If you find a therapist and they have their glasses on their nose and they're writing things down but they don't remember your name the next time you see them, that's not the one for you. So you find a therapist that you feel like you can connect with to share your heart. Now, here's the beauty of going to a professional therapist. Not knocking pastors. I'm not knocking people who are good friends. I'm not knocking other people. However, when you go to a therapist, they're licensed, they have insurance, and they're bound by the laws of confidentiality according to the code of ethics for their profession, which means if they share your information, you can sue them for up to $250,000 per incident and or 10 years in prison. I tell every single patient that comes to me, I want them to know the penalty because I want them to know their rights and I want to know how serious I take their life. When God placed their life in my hand, I'm not going to sleep. I am listening for the third voice in the room because he knows them better than anybody else. And I want them to know that they can trust the fact that I will never speak a word of what they say, because that's when you get to the crux of what's really driving them, what's really tormenting them, what's tearing them down and tearing them apart. When they know they can share that and not be judged, I'm thinking about getting on the walls, no judgment zone. You can say it how you need to say it. I know we're believers, but if you got to cuss, just go ahead and say it. You might feel better. Sometimes with anger, it's only one way to get it out. So
Sometimes it is.
just do what you got to do because you don't come here to be judged. You come here to grow. So that's the beauty of going to a professional therapist because they have liability insurance. They want to keep their license and they're going to do whatever they need to do to help you in a situation, but keep all your information confidential.
Wow, that's great. So, at what point do you think people should seek therapy? I mean, at what point do you think um, it's time for therapy?
So it's different for everyone. But if your sleep is interrupted, you're getting tormented at night, you can't stop thinking, you have racing thoughts. If your eating is out of whack, you're eating more than usual, not eating at all, because we try to stuff our emotional pain. I mean, we all got the quarantine 15. Some of us got the quarantine 50. So whatever we got, sometimes it's stuffing in because it's too much stress and pressure. And other times it's because we have things that we need to get to in the core, that it's in the core of our being that's tormenting us. And so we want to shut it up. So we throw it some ice cream or we throw it some ribs and some potatoes and everything else we can think of.
Haagen
But
Dazs.
but the time to go is the day you feel like I feel like I'm gonna pull my hair out. I feel like I'm gonna snap out on everybody. I'm not sleeping. My life is out of balance, and I can't get on track. Any of those, or I just need somebody to talk to because all my friends talk too much and run their mouth.
Right,
hmm
right,
So
right,
anytime you feel like it's the right time, because it's too much.
right. Got you. Dr. Kathy, thank you so much.
Oh,
This has
my
been
pleasure.
really, really, really wonderful. And I'm telling you, I think the dollar store might see me tomorrow.
Take $20. Don't do stop at 10. Take 20.
Telling you. Because I think too that, we are in a place where we're having to deal with so much right now. And it is, I can even see where there are people who just aren't handling it well.
Right.
They're not handling the pandemic well.
Mhm,
They're not handling the instances of racism
mhm.
that's happening across the country, colorism that's happening across the country, and then having many of us still having to deal with, our own situations in our own lives.
Mhm.
It's a lot right now.
It is so much right now. And some of us are so used to being in the spot of being overwhelmed with the superwoman cape on that we don't even acknowledge that this extra layer has affected us. We
Yes.
just keep on going, exhausted. You see people who look like walking zombies,
Yeah.
overwhelmed. And with our women, and I just want to throw this out there, our women tend to become closet alcoholics because the alcohol helps us sleep, particularly if we're going through menopause. There's a large number of women who become secret alcoholics to help them deal with the hormonal changes, to help them sleep, to help them have peace, to help them not stress. And alcohol talk to you. I'm your friend. I'm gonna be here. Come on, I'll help you go to sleep. Now you know we buddies at night. I'll put you to sleep like a baby. And you begin to dip. Now you know you got a hangover. You're gonna need a little bit of me to get your pickup. So come on, get a little bit in the morning. Don't nobody have to know. Who gonna tell them? I'm not gonna tell them. So it really begins to talk to you, your spirit, and draw you in to say, I'm gonna take care of you through this. You don't have to. Let me numb this pain up for you. Cause see, I do a whole bunch of stuff for you. I'll be your best friend.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
and
I'm
then we
sure
want.
that's tough too during this pandemic and
Mhm,
things like that. Yeah.
mhm.
Dr. Kathy, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been wonderful as always. I love talking with you.
I love talking to you. I'm telling you. And thank you so much for being here and giving us all of this information. So, if you have any closing remarks and if you
Oh,
could let us know where we can find you, if anyone has any questions or they want to reach out to you about therapy or anything like that, if you could give us your contact information.
okay, I'm on Facebook and it's just Kathy Barton, Barton Brown. I'm on Instagram also as Kathy Barton Brown. And then my telephone number, I was trained in radio. You say it 3 times. So 810-845-0200. 810-845-0200. One more time, 810-845-0200. That's my personal line that you can text me on it or you can call me on it. And I'm always able and willing to help God's people and others too.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day. Hold on for
Yes,
me.
ma'am.
That was amazing. Dr. Kathy Barton Brown gave us so much information about our mental health. And I want to encourage you to take care of your mental health. Dr. Kathy was gracious enough to even give out her phone number, which we will put in the chat. So if you feel like you're having some issues or you're overwhelmed or any of that, reach out to her and she will, if she can't help you, I'm sure that she will get you to somebody who can help you. And it is just important that we take care of our mental health, especially during this time. It is so crucial that we do that. Thank you for being here and joining us on Beautiful Color Conversations. Join us next week. Next week is a gathering of poets. We're going to have some poets and spoken word artists here to do some poetry and things about the beauty of Black women. So I encourage you to please join us next week. Please share this broadcast and let people know that we're here and that we're talking about colorism and that we are wanting to get as much information out to you as possible about colorism and your mental health. Be blessed. Have an incredible day. Bye bye.